Today, Q is back with a special message from President Trump, and something really big is about to drop, and we are on the precipice of history being made. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, every episode starts the same way. I say thank you to all my subscribers. I fully realize without you guys, this channel wouldn't work, and I'm so thankful and appreciative that we can build such a great community here. If you have not hit that subscribe button already, please come here and hit the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That way, as soon as the videos get posted, you'll be notified, because as soon as information is made available to me, I make it available to you. Now, here are the latest Q posts. Yes, Q is back. Yes, Q is posting. We're going to talk about some crazy stuff. We're going to talk about how the mainstream media has basically been maligning the Q movement for a long time, but even more so, they're stepping up their attacks, and something big is about to drop, according to Q. And we talk about a special message we received from President Trump during his latest speech to the VFW. And we're going to talk about what is going on with Huber and the investigation into Hillary Clinton, James Comey, and the DOJ and the FBI. So let's just go right into the first post here. From sea to shining sea. Remember that, because that has no meaning yet until we see later what the meaning is. And that is the special message from President Trump. It says, who does Huber report to, in the kill box here in brackets, directly? Define evidence. Who has the server? Why does POTUS continually refer to the server? POTUS does not speculate. Future proves past. Who has it all? Topics stated in past. Future big meaning. Repeats important. Think Twitter. Those awake see. Those sleep blind. Fake news. And then in the brackets, aka kill boxes, Q calls it, I guess the metaphorical one. Propaganda arm of Democrats and deep state failing. Panic. Silence is golden. Q. Okay, so obviously right here, Q is telling us a few different things, and it's important to look up. So first we say, who does Huber report to directly? Well, we've had this article. It was given to us a long time ago by Q, but it's just as important today as it ever was. It's the article out of Breitbart talking about Sessions appointing federal prosecutor is much better than Trump's second counsel, a second special counsel for Trump. And here it explains that Sessions has ordered Huber, so obviously Sessions is directly ordering and controlling. Huber responds and is directed by Jeff Sessions to team up with the Inspector General within the Justice Department to investigate these matters. Sessions informed Congress in his letter that all the matters recommended for investigation by Goodlatte, Gowdy, and Grassley are fully within the scope of Huber's existing mandate. He also informed the chairman that Inspector General Michael Horowitz, who is working with Huber, has a staff of 470 investigators, giving Huber access to enormous investigative firepower that far exceeds the staff of any special counsel. Okay, so remember this, because we've gone over this probably about 100 times now, but for those of you who are new to this, we got to keep giving you guys the facts and put that against what Q asks here. And Q says, who does Huber report to? Well, obviously it's Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the president, after that, I guess. But it says, define evidence. Who has the server? Okay, so the evidence that it's referring to is all of the evidence that we talked about in the last video. I mean, even we talked about this yesterday, talking about how there's like 4 different kinds of servers, and there's more to this than even we know at this point. So that in mind, and here is the breakdown. And we looked at this in the last video, and if you guys want to go back and watch it, you can. I'll just throw it up here really quick. We won't go through it again. But it's breaking down. You have like 4 different servers that are in play here. You have the DNC server, the House Democratic Caucus server. You have, and that was with the Juan and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. The DNC server was with Seth Rich and all the emails going back and forth, Donna Brazile, all that stuff. And what happened, and what it was released to Podesta to WikiLeaks. You have the Clinton private email server, which had probably the classified special access program that she was never read onto allegedly, and that she should never have had there. And then you have the Gmail server in North Korea that was used for dead drop communications with world leaders. So these are the 4 servers. But what Q is saying is, who has the server? And they always say one server. They're very careful about that. But they have all servers. And this server that's being referred to here, I would say has to do with the Hillary Clinton investigation, which would be the main one, I would say, is the main focus of topic here, because this one is the one that we've all been kind of looking at. These ones are more in the realm of national security, but it could also be referring to all of them. That's what I would think more overly, is that it was referring to all of them. But if there was a specific one, I would say it's referring to the Hillary one. But it says, why does POTUS continue to refer to the server? POTUS does not speculate, future proofs past. So because, I mean, referring to the server, the 33,000 emails, that's the one that's always getting referred to, brings light to the server. And as Serial Brain pointed out, if you guys want to read or listen to that, in this post here, I explain, I go over Serial Brain's post, Serial Brain 2's post from the Great Awakening board over on Reddit. And he talks about it, or they talk about it very clear and concisely when they say that, you know, there's obviously a connection between Windows Server NT, which is a program that runs servers and messages sent by Q to us on what to investigate, and President Trump making insinuations and giving us winks and nods saying NT, which is server. I mean, you can look back even to one of President Trump's latest tweets. If we can pull that up real quick, I'll do that. But what was interesting is that President Trump decided to actually capitalize two letters, and they weren't necessarily needing the capitalization. So, and what they the two capitalized letters ended up being NT. And here it is. It's from yesterday, where President Trump says a rocket has not been launched by North Korea in 9 months. Likewise, no nuclear tests. And this was taken as a wink and a nod. Now, a lot of these things are going to have to be very subtle because the president can't just come out and say certain things. But I'll take this to mean we're on to something if we're talking about the servers here. And it all connects back to North Korea. It all connects to everything. They're all connected because like we went over in that graphic, there's 4 different servers and they're all connected to this larger conspiracy of treason that's being committed. And the media wants to mock us and make us out to be crazy people, when the reality is all we're doing is following the evidence and information that's being provided. So from the president, I guess, you know, if I'm wrong for that and we're wrong for that, then so be it. But we're gonna go where the evidence leads us. That's the point of investigating things and looking into what is going on. What's the reality and the truth? That's why we, you know, are here. Okay, so going forward, it says, who has it all? Well, military intelligence, the NSA, all the intelligence agencies, they all have this information. I presume it was probably the NSA and military intelligence with the White House working in this symbiosis, I would say. But that's my first guess. I mean, obviously Q has it all, it would seem. So topic stated in past, future big meaning. So everything we've talked about in the past is going to have huge implications in the future, is what I think that's saying. And that repeats are important. So repeating this information and getting it out there is very important. Just like we go back and we go all the way back, like in this last video here, and we go all the way back to the first time John Brennan's even mentioned by Q, and it uncovers everything that's being unfolded here today. So this is why they were freaking out, because the real news that we were getting about the truth was given to us months ago, and now it's finally being exposed and brought to light in the mainstream. And that's why you have to think about Twitter. Think about John Brennan, him on Twitter, Comey on Twitter. What are these guys doing? Why are they doing what they're doing? They're not just sending messages to the president, they're sending messages to their cohorts. And they're trying to keep themselves relevant and out of trouble. But the reality is, when you commit crimes, you are punished. And that is what is happening here. So you can make fun of us all you want, mainstream media, but we're going to follow the evidence as it points us. So that's the way I read that off the bat. If you guys have a different take or anything, obviously leave it down in the description or in the comments so that we can have a conversation about it together. But those awake see, those asleep blind. Yes, I think we here are awake. The mainstream media wants to keep people asleep and blind. That's it. Fake news is what's our enemy right now. They're coming after us for the simple fact that we just want to ask questions. I've never made any real wild accusations. I've always been very clear to say, this is speculation or this is conjecture. There's no evidence really that we can point to directly besides circumstantial evidence to say that this is a probability that things happened or occurred. But at the same time, they're out there calling us just fake nut jobs who are going out and doing awful things and trying to conflate issues and gaslight us into believing that we're all crazy. All those tactics are going to fail. I can make that very clear right now. We are steadfast in our devotion to the truth, and that is it. If facts come out that change the what the truth is as we know it, then we adapt and we listen. But as of now, no evidence is being brought to counter any of this besides calling it, fake news, that we're conspiracy theorists and we're all out there. No, we're asking questions. We're patriotic Americans who want to know the truth and want the law to be applied equally if people did break the law. So it says panic, silence is golden cue. So they're panicking. and I think that silence is golden thing is, when Q stop dropping, they panic because then they lose the access to this information. And for them, they have to see it to know what to prepare for. And that's why all the stuff that's been happening since Q stopped posting has been great, because we're just continue the effort. If Q stops posting, we don't stop. That's it. We just keep going. We're like a train that's on a one-way track to the truth. That's it. So I'm thankful for all of you sticking with this, even when Q goes away for a while and then comes back. It doesn't matter. We're on a path to the truth, and that's what we have to focus on. So it says you have more than you know, and it gives us this link to this document, which is a letter to Jeff Sessions, Christopher Wray, and John Huber. So you have the Attorney General, the Director of the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney, Mr. Huber. And it's saying this. We'll read the first paragraph real quick. It says, we write to refer the following individuals for investigation of potential violations of federal statutes. In doing so, we are especially mindful of the dissimilar degrees of zealousness that has marked the investigations into former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and the presidential campaign of Donald Trump, respectively. Because we believe that those in positions of high authority should be treated the same as every other American, we want to be sure that the potential violations of law outlined below are vetted appropriately. 1. And listen, so it goes through each one of these, and we're going to read the bold points now, because you guys can read this for yourselves if you want. I'll leave a link in the description. But you have former FBI Director James Comey. Then you have, of course, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Then you have former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, former Acting Director of the FBI Andrew McCabe, FBI Agent Peter Strzok, and Lisa Page, FBI Counsel. And you have the Department of Justice and FBI personnel connected to the compilation of documents on alleged links between Russia and then presidential candidate Donald Trump, known as the Steele dossier, including but not limited to former FBI Director James Comey, former Acting Director of the FBI Andrew McCabe, former Acting Attorney General Sally Yates, and former Acting Deputy Attorney General Dana Boente. And it's signed here by all these congressmen. So this is from April. So we've had this, we've known about this existed, but what Q's pointing this to us for is to show us that the investigation was started. We have more than we know, because this is what Michael Horowitz has been investigating. This is what John Huber has been doing in conjunction with him. And what we're going to get into here in the next part is how I think that Judge Napolitano kind of explains why Huber should, or possibly probably has not stayed in Utah in order to impanel grand jury there, because the point that Judge Napolitano makes is valid in my opinion. It's obviously saying that, and it makes sense to me now hearing it, but it's basically explaining that it would be hard for him to impanel grand jury when he's 2,500 miles away from Washington, D.C., in which case, you have this disability for the grand jury to be near where the bank of evidence is and where all the crimes have taken place and so on and so forth. But that's not to say that that is a negative thing if you consider the fact that a jury can be impaneled somewhere near, anywhere really, it would seem, because if it was around that area. But then there's more to it than that, and we're gonna get in that in the future posts here. But that I wanted to share with you. Now, the next one is talking about the Huffington Post. Now, we talked about the Huffington Post here on this channel, and it's so funny how right after we mentioned them, they come out with this QAnon conspiracy has stolen into real life and it's not going to end well. Now they're trying to conflate it with some guy who went and did some horrible crime on the Hoover Dam and, had a gun and an armored vehicle and held up the Hoover Dam. None of us are here thinking that for 1 second. I mean, we're here as patriots who want answers. And for them to make these kind of pieces, Andy Campbell, thank you for writing this and showing your true colors. But I mean, for them to write this kind of stuff, I've read through the article. To be quite honest, I just don't even know how to respond to these articles. If these people really, I mean, I think they're all just on the losing side of this because they have vested interest in their politicians who they've supported, or their little swaths of power that they've created inside of Washington with their little lobbying and connections and sources, and their John Brennans and their James Clappers and their Comeys who have secret clearance, who can tell them all the little misworkings of the president's administration when he ever magnify every mistake into, turn every molehill of a mistake into a mountain, while ignoring the, Swiss Alps right behind you in information about Hillary and Russia and Uranium One and the conflict of interests and all these things, right? But no, you want to come on here and you want to, write your little article and treat us like we're, basically kooks for asking questions. Well, I refuse to take this, and I think it's a real slap in the face to us as we move forward. But hey, as Jesus said, we turn the other cheek and move forward. Now, this is this is the actual piece itself. I'm not going to go through it. Suffice it to say that what we talked about in the last video was how HuffPost came out with an article talking about, I was telling you about how my mom had showed me an article, and it had talked about everything with James Gunn, and it kind of dismissed it in the Pizzagate style, saying it's tantamount to Pizzagate, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But that in and of itself, I tried to explain to her, was a conflation of issues. You're taking something that has nothing to do with James Gunn and the tweets he made and the decisions he made as an individual, and then you're conflating it with some guy who went into a pizzeria and said, I want to go to the basement, and here again it's conflating that. See, because as Pizzagate was conflated with the nut job who went into that Comet Pizza with a gun, this is being conflated now with the nut job who went to the Hoover Dam with a gun. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, okay, so are we responsible for every person who has, a demented mind? No, just as Andy Campbell is not responsible for everyone who has a demented mind and reads his posts and, goes out with a Antifa flag and starts destroying downtowns. Okay, it's unreasonable. So that's all I'll say about that, and that is what I think Q wants us to say, or to see, and to say that this is their panic, is what Q is saying. And it's kind of, it really is. And then responding to his own post here in the next one, Q says, now, do you understand why mirrors and disinformation is necessary? Logical thinking. 20, Q. And the kill boxes around it with the brackets, metaphorically speaking. And so I didn't understand the 20. I have not been able to decipher that one yet. You guys will be able to help me out. I think, there was one thing that stood out to me is in the speech that President Trump gives, which we're going to watch in a second here, a little bit of it, he does make a reference to George Brett, a former baseball player who he says 20 years ago, or 20 years he played, and he emphasizes 20. He says 20 over and over again, and then he says his batting average, which I think was like 305, that he managed to keep through his 20-year career, which is that's a great batting average. He did well, but he says that, and it just seemed a little, something to be looked into further. I don't know what the other reference to 20 could be yet. I'll look in the comments here on this video, and we'll discuss it and see if you guys can come up with something, because I think you guys do a great job at that, and that's why I love the commenters. So this is great, but this is talking about, obviously, the post from Q, one of the last posts we got from Q, where it's giving us the picture inside of the actual plane here, and it's showing us, the reflections and how it was all part of the disinformation, how, they moved the mug on purpose to make it look like the cup holder was where it was set for Barack Obama as opposed to President Trump. That way it couldn't be, 100% proven, and so on and so forth, which is good, because there is disinformation that is necessary, and you have to distance yourself from this for a few different reasons that we've gone over in detail on many different videos. But suffice it to say that there are forces out there that don't want to see this information passed on and the truth to be put to light. And they, coming from an anonymous source, there's a lot of plausible deniability that comes into play, and other things that are important. So logical thinking would just lead us to say it's good to have that kind of distance, and this is a good way to get information out just to the public and to go around the mainstream media chokehold they have on so many people out there that we have to help. We have to reach out to these people. No matter what you say, these people are lost. They're brainwashed. Their culture has rotted their brain, and we have to reach out to them to try to bring them back to just at least a rational middle ground. That's what we hope for. Okay, so now the next one is an actual YouTube clip that we're going to watch here real quick, and it's of Judge Napolitano saying what we talked about before. So let's go ahead and watch it.
So look, the Attorney General appoints the Chief Federal Prosecutor for Utah to investigate three things. The exoneration of Mrs. Clinton before all the evidence was in,
right.
The exoneration of President Clinton and Secretary Clinton on Uranium One before all the evidence was in, and the abuse of FISA by the FBI and the DOJ. So this guy is in Utah. If he comes to Washington, D.C., and gets a half dozen federal prosecutors assigned to him and a dozen or so FBI agents assigned to him, he is a de facto special counsel.
Sure.
He's doing what needs to be done. He'll impanel a grand jury. They'll present evidence to the grand jury. The grand jury will issue subpoenas. If the subpoenas don't work, they'll go to a federal judge and get a search warrant. That's the way it's supposed to work. If he stays in Utah, he cannot impanel a grand jury in Utah to examine something that happened in D.C. All the evidence is in D.C. You're examining NSA, FBI, DOJ, present and past. The Utah grand jury does not have jurisdiction over events in D.C.
So he's got to make a road trip.
Correct. He will be toothless if he stays in Utah. Remember what Comey did when they investigated Mrs. Clinton. Where was the grand jury? There wasn't one. I've never heard of an effective federal criminal prosecution without a grand jury. You present evidence to the grand jury, you get the grand jury to issue a subpoena. If you need a search warrant, the first thing the judge is going to say, as I used to say, is, well, did the grand jury try and get this by subpoena? It didn't work? You don't have a grand jury? What kind of an investigation is this?
Why did Sessions appoint Huber? What do we know about him?
We know that he is not part of the internal DOJ hail fellow, well-met crowd. And to that extent, it's a good thing. But this distance between Utah and D.C. is going to be troublesome. And if you read the letter that Jeff Sessions sent, it said he's going to stay in Utah. He cannot, from Utah, run a grand jury and an investigation 2,500 miles away.
He could use some of Mitt Romney's miles.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what we're talking about right here. It says, does FOIA cover FISA? So does the Freedom of Information Act cover the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act? And it's no. FISA is the highest level of classification. How did FOIA generate redacted FISA page? Or FISA page in Killbox? Declassified. Who declassified? Section 5.2 classified Office of the President. Why redacted? Think Huber. Where we go one, we go all. Q. Okay, so quite simply put, the Freedom of Information Act's request, put in by people like, Tom Fitton over at Judicial Watch, they've all gone basically unanswered for the simple fact that FISA is not covered under FOIA because it's a high level of classification, or the highest level. And what it's saying is that how did the Freedom of Information Act generate redacted FISA requests for the Steele dossier? So how did that get out there? Well, it was because of Paige. She was the FBI counsel who went over it and redacted it and said, yeah, we can release it or whatever, or we can use this. And that's how it was able to be released, because usually that shouldn't be released, but it was released obviously for political motivations. And it was declassified. It says who declassified. Well, I think that what it's insinuating is that the Office of the President declassified it. And lo and behold, here we have a White House official document from the Office of the Press Secretary from guess who? Bill Clinton's administration. So one of the more interesting parts of this document produced by the Clinton administration is Section 5.2. And what would that happen to deal with? Well, it would happen that Section 5.2 here deals with the review proceedings for denials or revocations of eligibility for access. And this is all talking about classified information. So what is it referring to in classified information? Well, there's a few sections that are really important to note. But you always think about, Q having these dual meanings in what he puts out there. And I thought it was interesting that Q pointed us to 5.2, Section 5.2 of this, I think it's an executive order out of the White House. And what's interesting about it is, first, it obviously is an implication that this is where it started. That's where it was created. The office of the president. This is how it all was passed down. It was using that president and then redacted. And now Huber is investigating. And that's going to be what the target of the investigation is. But it could have a lot more importance to things like what we talked about here. In this last video, we talk about President Trump going out and saying, or Sarah Huckabee Sanders actually saying on behalf of the president, that he was considering removing the top security clearances of John Brennan, James Comey, Michael Hayden, Susan Rice, and Andrew McCabe. Now, just for a second, hear me out here, and we're going to talk about what that could actually mean. And it is right here that we see the executive order itself saying Section E, so that would be 5.2 Section E here. It says, this section shall not be deemed to limit or affect the responsibility or power of an agency head pursuant to any law or other executive order to deny or terminate access to classified information in the interests of national security. The power and responsibility to deny or terminate access to classified information pursuant to any law or other executive order may be exercised only where the agency head determines that the procedures prescribed in subsection A of this section cannot be invoked in a manner that is consistent with national security. This determination shall be conclusive. Okay, so I just thought that was funny because I picked up on that one little section there as I was reading through it, as it pertained to what could be a precedent established by President Trump. He could use their own executive order against them to have the right to issue an executive order that would remove their security clearances for reasons of national security, which that have to be proven, and then there's a whole process of going through it as you go up here to A, and it goes through the comprehensive details of how classified information is established in this section. So it all would have to pertain and go with that. But that being said, yeah, I think that was interesting, and I kind of wanted to look at that. So that's what I think is the read here. If you guys have a different read on it, of course, I'm open to any interpretation because I know that I don't get everything right. So, let me know what you think down in the comments. Now here, there's supposed to be a big picture here. It's supposed to be of the old post from, what would that be? May 15th, 2018. We have Q saying, coordinated all for a LARP, attacks will only intensify, ask yourself why Q. And it gives all these articles out there that were just lambasting the Q movement, calling us all conspiracy theorists, nut jobs, the conspiracy that President Trump is a genius, and that, and so many other things that they labeled it. But now Q's given us a whole new set, and we can go through each one of these. Really, they just all get worse than the other. First, you have this post here, where they pulled off the Q proofs the app on the App Store. So that is great. Or Q Drops, I think. Yeah. So they removed that from the App Store. I'm sure they're very proud of that. You have the NBC coming out here talking about the fringe conspiracy theory. There's plenty of merch on sale for sale on Amazon. So people make Q shirts. Okay. Are you really going to try to limit our ability and our right to produce, T-shirt that just shares a message or our First Amendment right? Okay. Then it points to this article talking about a GOP account, the Hillsborough GOP. Thank you, Hillsborough GOP, for tweeting this out, by the way. It says, you may have heard rumors about QAnon, also known as Q, who is a mysterious, anonymous inside leaker of deep state activities and counter activities by President Trump. This is all a bit cryptic and hard to follow for the average person, but it is, and it, worth watching. It gives this video, QAnon for Beginners, which I think is from Praying Medic, which they do a great job as well. So that is certainly something to look at. And the other ones, I think that was it, or the last one was the Daily Beast article. And I actually wanted to highlight this one, Will Sommer. Let me just talk to you for a second. I've seen your work. You're not totally out there, but when you get on this QAnon front, you really go with the worst case scenario, it seems. So I want you to just have an open mind and understand that if this is the president and there is information being told to us, maybe you of all people would want to just listen up and, as Q would say, enjoy the show. But this is just another piece that explains we're all tin-foiled hat nut jobs who are out here just it's like I said, it's the same thing. They take it and they conflate us with Pizzagate, and they call us the same, and they try to gaslight us into believing that we're crazy, and then they tell us that the people who go out and commit crimes are connected to us somehow, and we're just asking questions and seeking the truth. So yeah, I just reading through these articles, I just feel bad, but they talk about Kurt Schilling coming on board. It talks about the Plan to Save the World, this very profound video that was produced. And just look, and they're talking about President Trump giving the Q sign, and look, it's all real. I mean, this guy even highlights all how it's all real. So I don't know, maybe in his own way, he's trying to get the message out there while hiding it in a liberal message. But, who knows? We'll have to let history be the arbiter of truth on that one. Now, and also, of course, what would be a QAnon conspiracy piece without a reference to Roseanne Barr, who's a great woman, who's doing great things, and I really support her, and I think it's a shame what happened, and I've heard rumors that she was getting into a new TV show or something, so good for her if that is the case. So, that is what we covered there. Now, Q says, all for a baseless conspiracy. Enjoy the show. Sample 2, and that was the sampling we read through. And then Q finishes with, something big is about to drop. Q. So we have something big about to drop, and we have to keep our eyes open to see what that will be. So here's the next one, and Anon posts this. It's a video that we were going to go over briefly, but we'll watch a couple seconds of it here, and then you guys will be able to put together what this piece is going to be about.
To fight fake news and conspiracy theories, but they're also profiting from it. The tech giants sold an app in their stories called Q Drops. Now, this is important. Q Drops is linked to the conspiracy theory chain QAnon, which is described as an offshoot of the Pizzagate fiction, which claimed that Hillary Clinton ran a child sex trafficking ring out of a basement of a Washington, D.C. pizza shop.
I don't even know where to begin with how many things are wrong with what that man just said. This is why you can't watch the mainstream media, because first of all, everything he just said was a blatant lie. I mean, to me, because I've been covering this for a long time now, and that is nowhere near what any of us believe. They're trying to conflate us with Pizzagate. They're trying to pawn us off as conspiracy theorists. They're trying to shut down avenues from which we can report our message, which is just investigating what the truth is. We're not out here doing anything other than investigating what is being given to us, right? But this is a whole thing they talk about. It's not even worth watching it. It's just another example of how they're attacking us in the news. And they have a correspondent, and they're talking about how, basically dangerous it all is, and how it's all just a big game, and it's all LARP, and they get and the reason it's not even really worth watching is because you watch it and they get everything wrong. Like, they don't even interpret any of this correctly. So to me, it's willful ignorance, and that's the way I look at it, because they probably know exactly what the truth is. They just don't want to report it as it is. If I wouldn't mind them knocking us and calling us all conspiracy nuts if they at least got it right. If they at least got the story right that we're trying to tell and said it on the mainstream, but they won't, because they're so terrified of people like, who aren't like us really, I guess, but people out there getting this message who've been brainwashed by their propaganda. So anyway, it says, there is no greater current threat to American people than the fake news media. Hashtag controlled MSM. That's a hashtag we want to make viral. I'm going to probably put that on this and a few more tweets afterward. Study Nazism. Compare, contrast, Antifa. Compare, contrast, socialism, push. Push for rebirth. Who financed then? Who is financing now? Dark to light. Good wins. Q. Okay, guys, the same people who financed the Nazi movement are the same people who are financing this Antifa socialist movement in our country. They're trying to topple our country and turn it into some sort of fascist regime where they're going to control what you do. They're going to control what you think. They're going to control every aspect of your life by stripping your rights away one by one, systematically, through institutionalized forms of false flags and everything else you can imagine in order to get you brainwashed and conditioned into openly and willingly giving up all of your rights to the state so that they can take control. And that's the end goal of it. So look at what happens. These people are fascists. They're out in the streets. They're calling you a fascist while beating you over the head with a baseball bat, telling you, for saying that what they don't like. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And people with level heads have to prevail here. We cannot allow this to go on, to continue, to let because of these failing politicians and their failing dynasties, they're actually, it's their last metaphorical death grips, and clawing at whatever they can, and they're pulling everyone down they can with them, because apparently, according to Q, allegedly everyone's been implicated and blackmailed. And if they haven't been blackmailed, they've been co-opted and trained in the art of disinformation or misinformation or propaganda. And that's what you see a lot of with the fake news media. So they believe what they're doing is for a great cause. Yeah, maybe time will tell. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, it's really looking like a dark path we're going down when you have George Soros funding all these social movements in our country, which are just meant to divide and meant to break us apart, when we should be able to have healthy political discourse and debate without going into these violent movements. They're pushing for a rebirth. They're trying to take over our government. Listen, go study 1930s Germany and see what happened there. And now we're seeing something similar here. And they actually are using the Nazi phrase in order to become powerful. They may not be using it as their own moniker, but they're labeling every one of their enemies as Nazis in a push to take control, when nobody is at all in that way. I mean, it's such a fringe minority of the right as a whole. It's just ridiculous. So I'm sorry, I just had to get that out. All right, now Q marker, we do try Q. Now this is an Anon posting this, and what is this? Well, this is referring to this video here, and we're going to watch the exact moment where this all refers back to 5 minutes before President Trump started speaking at the VFW speech. Q posted this, from sea to shining sea. Now this is going to be what President Trump did on that stage, and you guys watch and you guys let me know for yourselves.
Across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea.
And there you go. You see right there, it says Q marker. That's what the Anon says. And then it says, we do try. Well, I don't know. I mean, you guys saw it right there. He says, from sea to shining sea. And President Trump points to his ear and says, everybody listen. And then starts doing the conductor motions. Like he is the conductor. So don't forget, this is being conducted behind closed doors for us, for our benefit. And it's just an amazing time to live in, to know that we have a president who actually cares about the American people and exposing this evil for what is, for what they are, to bring good back to the world, to fight evil. It's just great. And Q says in the next one, you are watching the systematic destruction of the old guard. Power will return to the people. Q. And that's in and of itself profound. I mean, these are epic times that we're living in, and it's just another symbol that they're falling and that they will fall. It says, we saw you, God bless patriots. And this is great because this is from over here. Somebody posted on Reddit, the Great Awakening board, this video of the motorcade. And you guys will watch this real quick, and you can actually, I think, whatever happens, President Trump's limo doesn't honk, but one of the cars later honks, and I think that car was carrying Q. So I think that's what it's saying, but that's so cool. Watch this. So you guys heard that. There was a honk there. And it's really cool that if that is the case, thank you. And God bless Q and everyone around President Trump and the Secret Service and the men and women who put their lives on the line every day for our country and our president and everyone. So thank you. Then it's the next one is this, and that is basically confirming what we just went over, how in that video, President Trump actually does the point and listen and then does the conductor sound. So that is something that's very, very cool, right? See, you see him doing it again with the music there. So just another incredible proof of Q that we can just keep in our pocket and know that what we're doing here is actually meaningful and it's going to have a huge effect on the world. So spread this information, get this information out there. I really appreciate you all joining us tonight and watching. So before we go, a couple quick things. Again, if you want to get caught up, watch these last few videos. You're going to get into some interesting stuff. And again, we're going to be supporting the family of Noel Remagen. This man's a hero, and his death is not going to be in vain, and we're going to help for his family and them to move on. So we'll talk about how we're going to do that in a minute. But if you're looking for a way to help this channel out, the best way to do it is to come here. If you have not hit the subscribe button already, click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That's the best way. The second best way is to scroll down at the end of this video, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights in the comments because, like I say, every one of these videos, we try to have our own QAnon research board where we don't just talk about what Q talks about. We talk about what the mainstream media doesn't cover and everything in between, and it's an incredible conversation. There's so many thoughtful, intellectual people down there. Even if you can't comment, just scroll down and read through the comments. That being said, if you want to support me over on Twitter, that would be very helpful. Come over here to @Justin_Formed on Twitter. You can find me @Justin_Formed again, and give me a follow over here. It makes a big difference. I really appreciate it, and that is so cool that you guys come over and help me there. Now, two things before we get into the most important part. First of all, if you're looking for a way to contribute to the channel financially, the best way to do that is to come over here to patreon.com. That's patreon.com. And all you have to do is search Justin Formed Talk. Come here to this landing page. Anything is a good contribution. It's a monthly contribution. It helps keep this channel alive no matter what. So I'm here doing this 24/7, 365 for you guys, trying to give you as much information as I can and just continue to grow the movement that goes around the mainstream media. So if you guys want to help out, come over here to Patreon. And another way you can help out is really important here. I want you all to go over here to gofundme.com/Remagen-family, and that's REMAGEN-family. And I'm going to leave a link down in the description of this video. And I want you all to please give what you can to the family of this man. And I know it's going to make a huge difference. Noel Remagen was a Secret Service agent who lost his life in the line of duty while in Scotland with President Trump, and we're here to support his family and support his sacrifice. So I just want to encourage people. I want to keep kind of promoting this until we at least reach the goal that they want, because it's going to make a huge difference for his whole family, and I know that it will. So I've personally donated, and I want you all to go donate if you can. So please go do that. Again, that's gofundme.com/Remagen-family, Remagen-family, and there will be a link in the description. So now that we got that covered, the last thing I want to do is talk about the most important thing. I always say the best for last. I'm like a kid on Christmas morning. You know, when you there's two types of kids: the kid that wants to rip open the best present first, or the kid that wants to open the best gift last. And I was always the one that wanted to open the best last, because I always just thought that that's a part of the beauty of it, is that it builds up to something awesome. And that's kind of the way God works, is in my opinion, he is an amazing God in every sense and form of the word, and all we are asked to do is to trust in the Lord. And that's the first step. There's a lot of steps to really getting yourself right with God, but a lot of those are personal, and those are between yourself and the Lord, and your own understanding of the Bible and his teachings and the lessons and how they apply or will apply to you in your life and what plan God has for you. But the simplest first step to reigniting that faith in God is starting with trusting in the Lord. And Proverbs shares an incredible hint, a speck of wisdom into what trusting in the Lord means. So I want to read it to you. It's Proverbs chapter 3 through verse 1 through 12. And it's probably one of my favorite verses in the whole Bible. And it touches me every time I read it, and I want to share it with you. It says, "My son, don't forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commands, for they will bring you many days of full life and well-being. Never let loyalty and faithfulness leave you. Tie them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will find favor and high regard in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own understanding. Think about him in all your ways, and he will guide you on the right paths. Don't consider yourself to be wise. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. This will be healing for your body and strengthening for your bones. Honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first produce of your entire harvest. Then your barns will be completely filled and your vats will overflow with new wine. Do not despise the Lord's instruction, my son, and do not loathe his discipline, for the Lord disciplines the one he loves, just as a father, the son he delights in. And that's the truth. God is our Father. And just as a father who delights in his son, there is still reprimanding. There's still rules. There's still, you're going to be told, yes, you've made a mistake, but it's okay because that's how you learn. And that's what trusting in the Lord is being able to trip and being able to stumble and make mistakes, recognize them, repent, and then move closer to God every day. We're all imperfect humans, and we just seek humbly that God give us the wisdom to know what to do and be for God and for our family and friends and for the world at large. And if we seek that first, that's the answer to true salvation. And your salvation can start here on this earth with blessings from God and ability for God to speak to you and come into your life and give you this incredible gift that is your eternal salvation, and then give you the gift to spread that message to others and to feel it in your heart every day. God is there. God is there, waiting for you. And all you have to do is trust in the Lord. So I hope that you guys, if you don't take anything else, take that away from this. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, haven't hit that button, please come here, hit it. It helps me out big time, and you guys don't know what that means, but I'm so thankful. Again, thank you for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. We'll see you when the next ones come up. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.